A very good morning to you and welcome to our Breakfast Primetime News. I'm Katrina Chang and as always, let's take a look at your headlines. The cab of the kidnapped political activist from Kurunegala found in Galgamur. 15 injured in accident in Palle Malala Hambantota. Leaders from G20 are meeting in St. Petersburg, Russia, amid sharp differences over the possible US military action against Syria. Campaign for Free and Fair Elections, or CAFE, which is an election monitoring body, says that it has received 376 complaints related to the upcoming provincial council election. Its executive director, Kirti Tennakoon, said that a majority of these complaints are reported from the central province.
We have received 376 complaints so far. We directed our attention towards the situation in Navalapitiya and Gampula. There seems to be an increase in election violence with the election coming closer. The highest number of complaints from a district is reported from the Kurunegala district, with the number standing at 100. At the same time, the central province is reported as the province with the highest number of complaints. 54 complaints were reported from Kandy and Nura Elia alone.
Meanwhile, election monitor People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, or PAFRA, says that it has received 296 complaints of election law being violated. Its executive director Rohan Hettiarachchi said they have also received complaints of political parties engaging in election activities near schools.
So far, we have received 296 complaints. The most recent of the incidents were reported from the Kandy and Kurunegala districts. In the Kandy district, incidents where election campaigning activities taking place near schools were reported. We also received complaints over the misuse of state property and the misuse of state employees. We have directed these complaints to the attention of the Elections Commissioner.
The post-mortem examination into the murders of a mother and daughter in the Kudaoi area in Vallavaya will be conducted at the Sirigala hospital today. The Vallavaya police, headed by a superintendent of police, have commenced investigations into the incident.
The bodies were brought to the Sirigala hospital last evening. The bodies of the mother and daughter were discovered from a house in Vallavaya last evening. Police media spokesperson SP Buddhika Sirivardhana said that the police was notified about the incident by a woman who visited the house that afternoon. The victims are an 85-year-old mother and her daughter aged 58. Police media spokesperson added that the mother and the daughter had been residing alone in the house. The police said that the Vallavaya magistrate judge arrived at the crime scene last afternoon and conducted the magisterial inquest into the murders.
The Department of Meteorology says that thunder showers will develop across several areas in the island today. According to the Department of Meteorology, thunder showers will develop at several places in the central, Uva, north, north-central and eastern provinces during the afternoon or evening. In addition, a few showers may be expected in the western, Sabragamo and southern provinces during the morning hours. The department further notes that there may be temporary localized strong winds during thunder showers. As a result, the general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize the damages caused by lightning activities. The department also says that there will be showers or thunder showers at several places in the sea areas off the coast, extending from Puttalam to Pottivil via Gaul. Fifteen persons sustained injuries when the lorry in which they were travelling in met with an accident on the Kolankala Palle Malala area in Hambantota.
Our correspondent said that the accident occurred at around 6 last evening. The injured was a group of pilgrims who were coming from Kataragama. The lorry veered off the road and collided into a garden of a house in the area. Our correspondent further noted that 16 persons were travelling in the lorry at the time of the incident. The injured were rushed to the Hambantota Central Hospital. 3 are in critical condition. The Hambantota police are conducting further investigations.
Police investigations have commenced over the incident where political party activists from Hettipola, Kurunegala was abducted by a group, beaten up and then released. A poultry businessman from Hettipola had thus been abducted and later released.
The businessman had said that he was abducted while he was returning from a friend's house. A three-wheel driver discovered the victim when he was dropped off at the Ramakale Forest Reserve in Anuradhapura. The police said that the cab in which the businessman was travelling at the time of the incident was discovered on the Galgamonan area road. A senior police official in the area said that scenes of crimes officers have inspected the cab in question and it has been handed over to the Variapola police for further investigations.
Up next is a look at the day's currency exchange rates. World leaders from G20 are meeting in St. Petersburg, Russia, amid sharp differences over the possible U.S. military action against Syria in response to what the U.S. administration calls a deadly chemical weapon attack by the Syrian government.
U.S. President Barack Obama arrives for the G20 meeting in Russia, where he is expected to face growing pressure from world leaders not to launch military strikes on Syria. Obama and host Russian President Vladimir Putin are on opposite sides of the conflict. While the G20 summit typically focuses on finance and economics, this time Putin said he would make room for Syria.
Some participants asked me to give them time and the possibility to discuss some other issues of foreign policy which were not previously on the agenda, but which are very important and urgent, above all the situation in Syria. I propose to do it during the dinner so we won't put everything in one pile, and so in the first part of our meeting we can discuss the very problems we originally have gathered here for, the problems which are key to the G20 countries.
The first round at the summit went to Putin,
Are we ready, yeah?
with China, the European Union, and the Pope signing a letter for G20 leaders calling for a political solution in Syria. Obama does have support from France and Turkey. Any G20 decision on Syria would not be binding, but Putin would like to see a consensus to avert military action in what would be a significant political triumph.
Kenya's parliament voted yesterday to quit the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, but the Dutch-based tribunal said it would press ahead anyway with the trials of its president and his deputy. A bill to this effect is expected to be introduced in the next 30 days after opposition MPs boycotted the vote. The ICC has charged President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto with crimes against humanity, which they both deny. Ruto's trial is due to start in Hague next week. The ICC said the cases would continue even if Kenya pulled out. The charges against both Kenyatta and Ruto stem from violence that broke out after disputed elections in 2007, in which more than 1,000 people were killed and 600,000 forced from their homes. Kenyatta is to go on trial in November. They were on opposite sides during the 2007 election, but formed an alliance for elections in March this year. And analysts say the ICC prosecution bolstered their campaign as they portrayed it as foreign interference in Kenya's domestic affairs. No other country has withdrawn from the ICC. Kenya's parliament is dominated by the Jubilee coalition formed by Kenyatta and Ruto. The motion, tabled by majority leaders Adan Duale, said the pair had been lawfully elected and the government should take steps to immediately withdraw from the Rome Statute which established the ICC. Andy Murray's US Open title defense ended with a whimper as he crashed to a 6-4, 6-3, 6-2 defeat in the quarterfinals to 9th-seeded Swiss Stanislas Wawrinka in New York yesterday.
The British third seed looked a shadow of the player who won Wimbledon 2 months ago, turning in a listless display against an opponent who sensed his weakness from the outset and went in for the kill. The match turned in Wawrinka's favour at the end of the opening set, which was on serve at 5-4 to the Swiss, but ended in an enthralling 10th game. Murray made several errors but still managed to save 5 set points. He finally gave up the set when he sent a forehand long and responded by angrily smashing his racket onto the court. A double fault on break point for Murray in the third game of the final set summed up his afternoon, and the match was put beyond him with a brilliant forehand winner from the Swiss, who broke Murray again to go up 5-2. For the Scotsman, the defeat marked his second loss to Wawrinka this year, having fallen in the last 16 clash on clay at the Monte Carlo Masters in April.
6-3, 6-2.
Bulgaria's parliament passed a declaration endorsing wrestling's bid to remain in the Olympic program after the sport was nominated for exclusion from the 2020 Games.
A total of 136 votes were in favour of the declaration, with just 3 abstentions, which expressed regret and bewilderment at the International Olympic Committee's proposal to remove wrestling from the Olympic calendar from 2020 at a meeting last February. In May, the IOC included wrestling on a short list of 3 sports vying for inclusion at the 2020 Games, which will be held in either Tokyo, Madrid or Istanbul. Squash and a joint baseball and softball bid are the only other sports being to be included in 2020, with only 1 to be admitted. Wrestling is Bulgaria's most successful Olympic sport. They have won 16 gold medals along with 52 silver and bronze. So there is strong sense throughout the country that wrestling should remain in the Olympics. Valentin Yordunov, the president of the Bulgarian Wrestling Federation, said that he has nationwide support. The IOC will decide which sport will be part of the 2020 Games in a vote held on the 8th of this month in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Well, that's a wrap for this edition of Breakfast Primetime News. I'm Katrina Chang. Have a pleasant day ahead.